welcome back to another episode of A Pain in the Art. Almost got my own title wrong. We're loving it. Good start. I'm here with Libby Gerard Pickering, who's a producer for the South Africans and the African family. And I'm here with Robin, who is the creator of both. And today we're going to be discussing the difference in directing in film and television against theatre. So Robin, have you had any experience with both of these mediums or just theatre?
I've had experience with both of these mediums. Yeah, you know what? Directing's like one of these things for me that I feel like once you've worked with really, really good directors, it's kind of like having a really good piece of steak. Once you've like had the perfect sirloin steak that's like been cooked perfectly and seasoned perfectly, and then you have steak that's not that steak, you always miss the really, really good one, you know?
Yeah.
But the difference between theatre and screen, I couldn't really tell you. I mean, I don't know how you would kind of do both, but you're studying directing at the moment, aren't you?
Yes, I'm studying directing for screen in particular. I mean, I did a lot of theatre when I was younger.
Performing or directing?
Performing.
Right.
I haven't really done any directing for theatre.
Where are you studying directing?
I'm at Royal Holloway University.
How old are you?
I'm 21 now.
Getting
older.
Little baby. I'm like 104.
That was just two different ends of the pole, wasn't it?
Yeah, I was like...
Oh, you infant. She's like, I'm ill.
I'm like, yeah, well,
Feel
that makes me
now.
140. But why aren't you offered the opportunity... Tell me about the course, because I want to know why you're not offered the opportunity to direct stage as well as screen.
So it's primarily film and television. So we sent it in around for the film and television, but we get to work with actors from the drama department. I mean, we have done assignments. We did one in particular. We did a Shakespeare module where we worked with actors from the drama department, and we were given a scene from a Shakespeare play and we had to adapt it for screen, which I found really challenging.
Why?
I think it's Shakespeare's so set in its ways and its theatrical elements that when you kind of bring it to screen, I mean, we adapted the script and modernised it, so the language changed, and that helped. But I think with acting, obviously on stage, everything's more dramatised and everything's bigger. Whereas when you're filming for screen, it's kind of you're under kind of the microscope. Everything's so much more subtle in a way. So I think it's finding like the difference between. The difference between the two really, kind of adapting something that was made for theatre and bringing it back, toning it down for screen.
What did you find helped change your actors? You say like the Shakespeare in itself leads to such over the top kind of theatrical elements. What, you were directing this, or were you assistant directing?
I was directing.
So what did you, when it's the actors are coming across very emotional and kind of borderline untruthful on screen, what would you apply, or what did you say in order to get the desired performance that you wanted?
Well, I had a few issues with my assessment for it with
What
actors. Well,
God.
Yeah, this was the cursed assignment for me. Out of the 3 years at uni, it was cursed. And I'm from Stratford-upon-Avon, so I was looking forward to this because I grew up with Shakespeare.
Yeah.
And I planned 2-day shoots, had locations, everything, and the day before my actors pulled out. And I had to reschedule, and I ended up having 4 hours in a new location that I hadn't planned for, and my actors turned up and they hadn't read the script. And these were actors that we were assigned with. So it was quite challenging because we had to at first go through the script again till they got their lines. It was a comedy, it was based on Taming of the Shrew.
Right.
So it was very much kind of needed to get those lines down for the script to make sense. So I think in a way that was one of the biggest challenges. I think had they been prepared it would have been a bit of an easier film.
Did they give reasons as to why they didn't know their lines? That's their job.
No, they said they hadn't read it. So
Were they given the information? Were they given the script?
yeah, 2.5 weeks in advance.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
atrocious.
Yeah.
So then, if you're directing, so talk me through how you would direct these actors, because this is a very unfortunate yet rare occurrence where a director
Yes.
works with actors who show up and don't even know what the hell it is they're supposed to be doing. Frankly, in Afrikaans would say it gives me like thriller up the back of my neck, which is like shivers, because I just cannot imagine actors turning up on set not knowing what they're meant to be doing and being comfortable with that. Just the idea of me not even knowing if I can get to the location on time gives me anxiety. So how did you get through this?
We had to spend a lot of time reading lines until they were comfortable with it, and then we just blocked it again and again, ran it through the whole scene, and then bit by bit we had to do just kind of take snippets of each of the segments of the scene. I think on one of the segments we went about 13 takes in. It was bad. But
That's horrific. So working with actors who are a bit more theatrical, like you say, kind of doing over the top Shakespeare stuff on screen, how do you bring them down? And I mean, they don't know their lines, they don't know what they're doing. What direction do you give in order to get them to give you what you want?
well, it's very challenging, and it's all about kind of stripping it back. And I mean, my style of directing at the moment, while I'm finding my feet with it all, I like kind of giving the scene to the actors, letting them play it out, and seeing how they'd find it on their own, and then kind of taking bits and tweaking them from there. And that's how I do it and how I like it. Because I think sometimes you can kind of over direct and you can give too much direction, and then it just feels unnatural. And you can kind of see it sometimes with some student films where like you can see right down to the little detail they've been told to like place their hand on this mug here and do this and that and say it like this. And so I think it's important to kind of let the actors come in with their own kind of portrayal of the scene and see how they find it, and tweak it from there.
But if you have, for example, let's just give a hypothetical situation, if there's a scene and you know how the scene needs to go, because it's one scene in a wider scope of a story or an episode, an important scene because it needs to hit these crucial emotional moments or whatever it may be, and then they come in and they have a completely different idea of how the scene should go, just possibly because they're unaware that the scene needs to kind of reach this arc or this crescendo or whatever it may be. How do you allow the actors to still have their natural impulses and instincts allowed into the script, but how would you get them up to kind of hitting those moments or getting them where they need to be?
I think it's important to kind of talk through the scene and go through the beats and the highs and the low points, so everyone's on the same page.
I mean, Robin, would you have any advice to give to Libby on that topic if you've done directing?
I've never directed before, but I am curious as to know, I mean, of course it's a great answer, but I'm curious, what's like the best, because I know you work with John's the head of your directing department.
Yeah.
What's the most important thing you think you've been taught as a director?
The most important thing? That's a hard one. I think, for me, personally, it's having confidence in your ability and having the confidence to go out there, meet the actors, and not be afraid to kind of make sure that your input and your view is heard. I think when I first started, I remember my first film that I directed, I was quite shy and timid, and I knew what I wanted, but I wasn't quite sure how to kind of get it across. And I kept saying to the actors, oh, would you mind doing this? Or, oh, do you think you could possibly do this? Whereas now I've come to the end of my degree, it's very much when we're doing my collaboration film, it's like, right, okay, this is the scene, this is what this character's going through, this is what this character's going through, this is the beat of the scene, this is where you need to hit. And I felt very in control of the set and the actors, and so I think having confidence in your ability is one of the biggest things.
Do you think that influences your behaviour in terms of, do you behave differently on set? How do you behave?
Well, I like having a fun set, but there's you have to find the boundaries, between having a good time but also keeping it professional, because you are working with professional actors. so you need to make sure that they're comfortable working with your set. You need to make sure that the crew, the runners, are all on board, they know what they're doing, they're being quiet when you're going for a take and whatnot, and you're actually being looked after. I mean, I've been on shoots like in my first year, early second year, when I've been helping out doing sound for another shoot, and actors have been outside in the freezing cold in like mid-February for about 7 hours straight, and you're there thinking, oh, you know, can we bring them in, give them some tea, warm them up a bit, because their hands are freezing. So I think it's, you know, making sure that you're looking after your actors, and just keep it. I think everyone on the course really has more of a professional working kind of standard now. Going through the 3 courses, you just learn a lot. You pick up little things, and it just really is making sure that your talent's looked after, because they're you know, like who's going to give you what you need.
Well, yes, we are very important. Are there professional directors that you got to work with throughout your degree?
No.
Are there any professional directors that you admire?
Yes. One of my favourite directors is Edgar Wright, because I just love his style of films. I love Baby Driver, one of his latest films. I love sound and music, and he based that film on a soundtrack first, and he kind of built the narrative around it. And I really love narrative-based films. It's my kind of thing. I did my dissertation on the evolution of the soundtrack in film over the years, and I just find it fascinating.
Why do you love it so much?
I just think it's so important. I do feel that sound is 50% sound, 50% picture for the film. It just really adds something to it. I mean, you need to make sure that you've got to be careful not to carry the emotion with the sound in a scene, but it's about getting it so right, picking up on that emotions in the scene and adding something to it in the background that just uplifts it a little bit. I mean, my final year grad film, the ending scene, it was about a boy called Henry, and he's in school and he's struggling because his granddad has dementia, and he's struggling to identify who Henry is at the moment. And so he goes through this kind of, he goes through some kind of torment at school, and he bullies this kid, and he finds out that is, I mean, without giving you a bit of context, I'm not going into it all. Basically, he finds this picture of this woman during the Second World War, and it turns out to be his granddad in drag as part of like the entertainment acts that they put on.
Wow.
And so he takes this picture to his granddad, and his granddad's like, oh, he starts to remember this character, Estelle, his stage name. And so at the end of the film, he goes and he dresses up as Estelle for his granddad, because he wants him to do something for his granddad that will kind of bring a little bit of his granddad back to him. And at the end, we had the granddad laughing, and it's a really nice laugh. It's a really endearing laugh. As Henry walked in, he's dressed up as Estelle in this dress, and he's got a feather boa and the whole works. And we had a guy compose the music for it, and just putting that on the end and uplifting that moment worked so well with the little laugh from the granddad. It just really kind of turned the moment into something kind of exciting and a bit more, had more kind of emotional depth and like gravitas. So
just gotta mark this. Fair enough. That is really amazing. I would agree about the music and the picture. I feel like when the soundtrack can go wrong, you really notice it. It's incredibly disjointed. But I remember when I was in drama school, there were always directors in the production department who were studying, we had like screen arts, and those people who were studying crew and sound and directing and all of that. There were certain directors that everybody at drama school wanted to work with in the department, and then there were directors that other actors, you'd find out that so-and-so was working on this project with so-and-so, and you just see actors just put their heads in their hands. And there was one director, and I can't remember his last name, he was brilliant. And while, first year directors, I just remember everyone writes their very first film, and it's the most extravagant, they go to utter extremes. I just think this is every directing department in every country, in every Western institution. But everyone's like, it's going to be about drugs, and it's going to be about overdoses, and it's going to be about death, and it's going to be about religion, or it's going to be about, this is my political message, or whatever it was. And I remember this director did the simplest film, and to this day, it was his first, I think it was one of his first projects, I won't say his name, but it was brilliant. A girl walks into a cafe, and she goes to sit on a wooden chair, and she stops, she looks at the chair, and then she looks at the comfortable couch and she just sits on the couch. And just by camera work of zooming in on this chair and music, the chair starts to create a vendetta that the girl didn't choose to sit on that chair. And suddenly there's a close-up and she's walking down the street towards the camera and she stops and the camera moves to the side and there's the chair behind her on the sidewalk. And then she goes to into a room or something, she opens the door and she stops and there's the chair like there, and it becomes this whole story about this chair stalking this girl because she chose not to sit in it. And I think it ends in a brilliant way that she suddenly looks up and she's in this room by herself, or, I don't know, studying or something, and the chair is there and the music starts to build, and so she goes to leave the room and the door is locked, and just through camera work the chair appears that it's getting closer and closer and closer to her, and she's getting more and more scared, and the next thing you see is like the door handle like rattling or something like that, and the music's reaching its crescendo.
Yeah.
And then that's the end of the film. And you don't know what the chair's done to her or why the chair has done this. But it was brilliant.
Yeah.
It was so simple. It was only about 5 minutes long. And it was so clever.
Yeah.
And it had that reminiscent of like Rowan Atkinson. You know, like the absolute simplicity of just basic things, like Rowan Atkinson's sketch on stage about the spotlight. Have you seen it? And he tries to move away from this spotlight that keeps following him all over the stage, and then finally he goes off stage and he returns with a vacuum cleaner and he vacuums up the spotlight and the spotlight gets smaller and smaller and smaller until it's gone. It's so simple.
Yeah.
And I just think but you're right, it is. It's atmospheric, really. I don't direct anything, but I coach actors. And in a way, you're kind of directing them, but you're directing them more emotionally in order to, and it's things that I've been taught, you know, and honestly, if I could give a name to what I do, it would just be, things that I wish I had learned when I was younger, because it's just all direction I've received throughout my life, working with people in New York and working with people throughout the industry and studying different techniques. But it kind of borderlines directing, but I keep saying to my actors, I'm like, don't do anything. And it was only when I was about 22 I had a teacher that kept on saying that to me. Stop acting. Don't do anything. Just say the words. Just speak the words. Let whatever comes come up. But don't put this emotional cart before the horse in terms of showing me how you feel. It's boring. And I see that now, and it's the same, I wonder, with directing in that sense of are you taught in any way to allow the audience member in? That we're invited into the story as opposed to telling us a story and laying it all out on the table for us to kind of watch it and then be left cold and go, oh, well, that was a good story. Are you taught techniques in a way, I mean, I don't know, this is foreign to me, that audience members are invited in and we go along with you on this journey?
It is very much kind of showing the audience rather than telling.
Right.
And so it's about kind of orchestrating different elements of the film and seeing how you can kind of show the character's narrative and the character's inner thoughts and feelings rather than telling it out loud, which is really kind of how we've been taught to do it. It's kind of less is more in a way. There's the idea of kind of there's more simplicity than there is in kind of over attacking it with so many other little things. And
unfortunately, that direction has been passed on to actors, and now actors come to me and they say, I've been told that less is more. Unfortunately, by saying that to actors, you're not getting them to be honest or truthful. They're now putting their point of focus in reducing how they're feeling to be smaller and smaller and smaller. And I've worked with you when I came and worked at Royal Holloway University and ran a directing...
Seems ages ago now.
It is.
Yeah.
It was ages ago, wasn't it? It was,
Yeah. It was 2 years ago?
Was it really?
A year and a half? It was a while ago.
I came in and scared all of you.
Year, yeah.
Because I told you not to say that to actors.
Yeah.
And do you remember what I said to you? And what I taught you?
God,
the answer's going to be no, isn't it? Oh,
Me
God, I'm going
freaking
to have to come back and run
Going back
another
2
workshop.
years.
Oh, God. About doings. And about giving us verbs.
Yes, yeah.
Because that's where I say, like, I've worked with really good directors. One of the best directors I've ever worked with is a guy called Mark Beasley. He's a director in New Zealand, and I worked with him on 2 shows. And he's just... in my entirety of working with him, I've probably said about 50 words to him. But he's so brilliant in the way that he doesn't exactly what you say when you're talking about you can see actors who have been directed by directors in order to put their hand here, pick up the cup here, step down like this. I had somebody at drama school who couldn't direct to save their life. Make me, honestly, I remember going home and crying we were doing a play and I probably cried for about a week. I absolutely hated them because they made me feel, if I can give a visual, encased in cement. It was step here, breathe here, look up, look down, look here, say the line like this, da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da-da, step back, sit down, head down, breathe. It was to the point of where you're like, this is, there's no point in me being here.
Just get a robot in.
Absolutely. Like, this is, I'm not even an actor. I'm just
Yeah.
feeling out your fantasy of what you think I should do. There's no trust, nor is there any, like, freedom in my process.
Yeah.
I'm coming in and essentially just, like, getting you off. You know, because I'm just doing exactly what you want me to do. This is just stupid. Mark is amazing, and I worked with him on a show in New Zealand, and I was in a really bad headspace. And I've talked in podcasts before about depression and anxiety. Man, and I was in shooting this show, I was in a really, really bad space, and I had said to my agent, like, I don't want to do anything, just kind of take me off the books for a while. And then she called, and she was like, they want you for this role. And she said, look, if this show goes for a second series, you'll be call-cast. And that's my dream, because I've always, apart from a film I just shot where I was a lead, which was kind of a dream come true, I've always been supporting, I've always been guest, I've always been reoccurring or in and out. I've never been call-cast. And she said, look, if this goes for a second season, you're going to be call-cast. So we really suggest that you just do this. It's just 2 days of shooting, just do it. And so I was like, all right. And I took myself out and I put myself on set, and it was one of these horrible scenes where the sun's going down and you've got to get the shot, and you've got 10 minutes to get the shot, and if you don't get the shot before the sun goes down, you're stuffed, because tomorrow's full and we don't have time to do a pickup, and you just need to, we're wrapping and this is the last episode of the season, we've got to be wrapped by this time, just get the shot. Oh man. And it's fast turnaround television, so I remember, like, you do the first take, and it's a little bit off. And I'd worked with Mark before on another show, and Mark came up, and he's wonderful, because he doesn't do exactly what you're saying. He doesn't overload us as actors. And I love working with him, because I think I just always remember him, because he kind of got me through what I was going through. But he just says really specific small doings, and he says it in a way that conjures up the kind of emotion that he's trying to get at without talking too much. And so he kind of came up to me and he said, I really want you to interrogate her. Interrogate her. And as an actor, like I say, we feed off doings. I mean, look, I can't speak for every actor out there. Me. I feed off doings. You give me something to do, now I feel great, because now I can just do this, and then I don't have to think and I don't have to show, I just do what you're telling me to do. So he said interrogate, and in my head I'm like, can I interrogate? I'm like, yeah, of course I can. Okay, yep, no problem. And the sun's going down, and I can see, there's a DOP kind of looking, and I can see people looking out the window, and I can see, some people trying to roll their shoulders back. So we do another take, and I hear Mark behind the monitor go, yep, we're going again. And I just think to myself, oh God, we've done 2 takes now. And this is fast turnaround television, so you don't have time to faff around.
Yeah.
And the sun's going down, and I'm starting to sweat, and the person's coming up to me with the script going, you said this line wrong, can you just say instead of the? And I'm going, can you just effing leave me alone? And somebody else is coming up and mopping my forehead, and I can see the DOP getting restless, and I can see everybody else looking at the sun going down, and Mark came up to me and goes, great, I really want you to put the pressure on her. And I go, okay, yeah, can I do that? Yeah, I can do that. That's a doing. Yep, no problem. Got it. And he's like, you got it? And I'm like, yeah, I've got it, Mark. No worries. Yep. And so we go again, and it's 3rd take. And I hear Mark going again. Oh God, and the sun's like nearly down past the horizon, and my anxiety has just absolutely kicked in. And I'm raging at my agent in my head going, I knew I didn't want to take this role. This is why I didn't want to take this role. I'm stuffing this up. Oh my God, I'm sucking, and now I'm sweating, and now you can see the sweat armpits underneath my arms, and now everyone's looking at the sun, and Mark's over there talking to someone, and I'm like having this absolute existential crisis while the sun's going down. And Mark came up to me, and he looked at me and he's like, don't let her go. You're letting her get away with it. Don't let her go. And something inside me, it was like a chiropractor emotionally clicking my spine into place. I got it.
Yeah.
I got exactly what he was saying. He's saying, I knew what my objective was, I know what the scene's about, I know what my suspicions are, and everything she did, I now knew that I needed to watch her, because every breath she took, every time she looked away from me, every time she rolled her eyes or stumbled over a word was validation that she was sleeping with my husband. Everything she did, I knew, and I'm there with my attention on her, absolutely not letting her get away from me. She owes me a confession. And we got it. And now the scene's on my show reel because I love it. And we thank Christ we got it before the sun went down.
Oh, I was actually just listening to it.
Right? But it's this thing. There's a director
I'm
right
sorry
here.
for sleeping with your husband, Robbie.
But the thing about Mark is that the way I visualize it, because I work visually, is he leaves for actors a trail of breadcrumbs.
Yeah.
And he trusts our process 110% that I will find my own way there.
Yeah.
And I'll get there in the end. As opposed to this damn director at drama school who goes, I don't trust you, and with all due respect, probably not, because I'm a first year acting student and I don't know what the hell I'm doing, just like all of us starting out don't know really what the hell we're doing. But instead of helping me, he picks me up and puts me exactly where he needs to be, to the point of where I'm going to suck. Because there's no emotional process happening, there's nothing on my behalf that I can bring in order to make this role me and make it alive. I'm now just an empty vessel for him.
It's restricted to what he allows.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that's why directors, I find, and I don't even really want to go into the realm of talking about the difference between stage and screen, because I feel like for me, and it would be so interesting to hear other actors and what other directors work for them.
Yeah.
But I always remember Mark, because just things he said, and because I'm overly calculating anyway, and I'm analytical, and I'm an actor that gets stuck in my head, tiny things that are said by the director, I take that and I absolutely mull over it. I did another show with him where I had to play it's a really small kind of nothing role, but it's a part of a show called The Almighty Johnsons, and it's over here at the moment, and it's this kind of ridiculous show. It's like a drama comedy, but it's about the Norse gods being reincarnated into like people in everyday society. And I had to do this like emotional speech at a funeral, and I hate watching it because again it's like a young actor, and I'm like, no, I'm stuffing it up. But I did a rehearsal before we went out and we shot on location. And Mark came up to me after the rehearsal, and to be honest, I was really young when I was shooting this. I was probably like 22, 23, and he was kind of said something to me in terms of, we're in the South Island of New Zealand. He just went, we're in the South Island. We're way deep in the South. Just remember that. And that's all he said to me. And man, that got stuck in my head because
Yeah.
I went away and I was like, oh my God, he wouldn't have said that to me if that didn't mean something. What does he mean? Why is he saying that? And then I was like, oh, I'm playing this way too proper.
Mm.
I'm on a farm. I'm a country girl. My grammar I wouldn't speak with perfect articulation. I wouldn't really hold myself with such control. I'm at a funeral. My grandma's just died. Loosen up, man. We're in the South. And then he came up to me after we shot the scene where I have to like cry at the funeral. And he said this thing where he came up and he was like, yeah, yes. We had the rehearsal and now we came out here and you gave us Angelica. The character's name was Angelica. And he just kind of did this like thing where he opened up his hands ever so slightly and he went, you gave us Angelica. And it was just the night, and he didn't say anything. He didn't say it was good. He didn't say he liked it. He didn't say well done. He just went,
Yeah.
And I love that because it stops engaging that damn head
Yeah.
that goes over the top. And it's just, and I think that's why actors this day and age, when there's too much being said,
Yeah.
it becomes a game of trying to get it right and trying to feed into what you want and then trying to do what you want us to do, as opposed to kind of, you ever seen a wave hit the shoreline and then it reverberates back out? This happens all the time in New Zealand because of the currents. The waves go up the beach, right? And then sometimes they hit a really hard shoreline and you have backwards waves. You've got the tide, the waves coming in, and then you've got waves reverberating off the shore and they meet in like a big clash. And I always think visually that's what a director and an actor should do. You're coming with this, I'm coming with this, and we meet
Meet in the middle, yeah.
there. And it's just through leaving that tiny trail
Yeah.
for me to see what you want, and then I know what I should hit, but it's trusting that I will get there.
Yeah. No, you can totally see on screen when someone has said, do this, do that, now you're going to do this, you're going to be here, you're going to stand on this spot here, we're going to mark it down for you. And it is just being able to, working with the actor and allowing the actor to find their way with the character.
But I can't imagine what it would be like if you worked with an actor who didn't know what they were doing. Because what else can you do? Have you found that? Where you just feel paralysed in a sense?
I mean, that's how I felt when I was shooting that Shakespeare. You're there in the moment and you need to get it done, and you know that there's not enough time to get it all sorted, make sure the actors know what they're doing and learning their lines and getting, the camera angles right and getting everything in to make a good piece of film. And so at that point you're kind of there and you're like, oh. And I mean, there's only so much you can do really, and it's about the actors being prepared and the director being prepared, the DOP being prepared. Everyone needs to know what they're doing, be comfortable with it, to turn up to set and reach that.
Do you get overwhelmed when you feel like people don't have a handle on what it is they're meant to be doing? Is it easy to get overwhelmed?
I think it can be very easy to get overwhelmed. I'm quite a level-headed person, so I'm quite good at dealing with stress. So if there's something that goes wrong, I'm always trying to look for a solution to it, whether it's something that might not be as good, you got to do it. So when we were filming it, I was like, well, okay, this is what I've got, this is the situation, I've got to come up with something, we've got to film something. So we went with it and we worked with it and we just got it done. And I mean, it was fine. It was fine in the end.
But isn't that dissatisfying?
It
It's
is.
just fine.
It is. It is very, very dissatisfying. And I think it was a good learning curve for me. It was. It's something that it's done now, but I would never want to do again. And I think it's a push really. It's wanted to move forward from that and make sure that never happens again, making sure that your actors and you're having time for rehearsals. I think with little kind of assessments like that, there's no time for kind of prior rehearsals to meet up and do script read-throughs and make sure your actors are on the same page as you. Whereas our collaboration film, for example, we had a big script table read-through and we met the actors prior to the day. I mean, with a lot of student films, you're meeting your actors on the day for the first time, and you don't have that much time to talk about yourself and introduce yourself to them, and hear, how they work and what they're like. It's very much they turn up, you introduce yourself, and then you're right, okay, here's the scene, we're working it through, and then we're going for a take. And so it was quite nice in my grad film to have that extra bit of breathing space to be able to meet the actors beforehand, get to know them as a person, and get to see how they act and how they kind of get on with.
Have you ever had to hold an audition process yet?
We had one for our collab film.
Okay.
And it wasn't on a big scale. It was quite a small audition process, but it was interesting to. That for me was really nerve-wracking because it was the first time I've ever done that, because normally we just kind of either get given actors or we don't have time for audition processes. It's very much kind of grabbing someone, looking at their showreel and kind of saying, hey, we've got this film shoot coming up. Whereas
would you ever cast somebody who looks the part without a showreel?
No.
You would need to see a showreel?
Or some piece of work, or kind of meet them and bring them in and kind of give them some lines to read, because.
Would you get them into the audition room, though? I'm asking because I have actors who I work with who don't have showreels, and I say to them, as long as your headshots are right, showreels should really start. When you're starting out, I say to them, don't pay to go to these showreel places in order to have showreels made, because you can tell that actors are paid for this. They don't have proper directors on set, so your performance isn't any better. They've just put you in a period costume with some very nice art department, but your acting isn't great. And I say, look, if you look professional with your headshots, they will get you in and you'll be seen. But I want to know, is this what you've been said? You wouldn't get somebody into the audition room without a showreel?
I mean, it depends, but for first year film, for example, we went on headshots. There were some pages on that didn't have showreels, and that was fine. And some actors were amazing. They looked the part. They looked incredibly. It was just a great performance. And then there's just the odd one or two where you kind of they come in and they look nothing like their headshot, and there's no showreel, and and it's kind of having to kind of then work through it and adapt and whatnot. So I think that's kind of timing wise with student films and things at uni, you kind of don't have that time to get organised and have that kind of pre-production time with the actors, whereas I feel like going into the industry, very much that it would very much matter to kind of get the actors in and go through the audition process and see.
So is a showreel imperative?
Going on experience, I'd say it is good to see what they can do before you take them in, because it might be that they've got a great headshot but they're not very good, or they're not necessarily great with comedy or a particular style of acting. So I think it is important to kind of see what they can do, and if it fits in line with what your script is and what your narrative is. For me personally.
If I'm allowed to butt in for a split second, because I do producing and that's what I specialised in, and when I was doing casting, flat out I didn't look at anyone who didn't have a showreel, because to me that says you haven't done enough and you don't have enough experience.
But what happens if you see a showreel though, and it's one of these ones that are shot through a fisheye lens, and you know that the actors are paid for it?
I mean, I've never seen any of those. Those weren't the sort of things I was seeing. I was seeing things from like, they've been in this film or in this student film,
a lot of
or whatever.
student films, so there's just a lot of cuts.
So,
of different
Well,
students.
this is what I encourage my students to do. I say to them, don't go to these companies and pay £500 to have a showreel made. Apply for a student film, because when you're starting out, all they need to see of you is 20 seconds of walking and talking.
Yeah.
They need to see that you can take direction, they need to hear what you sound like, and that you can stand on a mark. That's all they need to see. The older you get, the more work you get, your showreel starts to become a portfolio of the work you've completed. But I guess what I'm saying is that I've worked in casting, and when we see those showreels of it's been done by blah 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 films, and then it's this kind of montage, and I mean the performance isn't great because no director is on there like Mark Beasley giving them wonderful direction in order to unlock their best performance. I said to them, it's a waste of money, because it still says to producers like you that you're not working. They look at this and they go, well, they've paid for that, so I know they're out of work. So, but you say you didn't see any of
I
those.
didn't see any of in that sort of style. No.
Mm.
Yeah, the majority of the shows that I was looking at because I was looking at Mandy's actors, they were cuts from student films that they'd done prior.
Yes.
And there was some really, really good kind of student film quality.
Yes.
And you could just get their kind of abilities, they came across on the screen, and it was great. It was just there, and it was raw, and it was you got a good concept of how they work.
So you would highly encourage actors to go and get
Yes,
student
I think
film
student
work?
films are great. Yeah, if you're starting out and need some material for your showreel, I'd kind of look at what they're offering, what kind of film it is, and what style it is, and whether it's tailored to you. And but yeah, I definitely recommend student films, especially at third year. If you're going on a third year student film, like grad film, I say it's because you have a big budget for it. You have to go crowdfund if you have a budget, but it's got a budget behind it. It's got a crew together, and by that point you've got all the little bits you need really to kind of put on a professional set. So it was, yeah. I mean, I looking back to our first year film set, in comparison to our third year film set, is so much of a difference. Like, it was just so professionally run. I mean, I was surprised. At the end of it, I was thinking, oh man,
I'm a director.
That was pretty good. That was pretty smooth. I had an amazing producer. I had a great DOP. We had first AD. We had a bunch of, we had like 4 runners who were first years and just eager to get some on-set experience. Our sound, we had everyone really, and it was nice. We had, we had call sheets. We had timings out for everyone. We had an hour's break for lunch, and we put on a proper feast for them. It was all just seemed very professional and very kind of smooth, and it was just really fun.
And what do you want to do now that you're out of uni?
Oh, what a question. I want to go into TV actually. Now I've come to the end of it. I'd like to eventually end up in TV drama, just because I think it's so exciting, especially with Netflix and Amazon Prime now putting out more TV series, and The Crown. I think it's one of the highest paid or highest budgets for a TV drama, and it's incredible, the cinematography and all that, and it excites me. So I want to go into TV. I like to do a bit of live TV as well, because I think that's why I love theatre so much as a kid. I love just being in the moment and being kind of live and there, and not one performance was the same as the other night. So
What do you mean by live TV?
So anything that's live. So
You mean like telethons?
no, so for example, the morning breakfast TV shows,
I
they were
see.
live,
I see.
and
I don't know why telethons are the first thing that came to mind when I thought live
I haven't
TV.
seen a telethon.
I haven't seen a telethon in about 20 years either.
I think the
I
last
know.
telethon I saw was on The Simpsons, an episode of The Simpsons.
Yeah, I was thinking the episode of
30 years ago.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with Joey.
Yeah.
On the telethon,
Yeah,
he's,
that's right. Yeah.
trying to get down to the front row.
Yeah, that's right. I see, that kind.
Yeah, it was I mean, yeah. So that's what I like. I like being in the moment, and I work well under pressure. So, I kind of feel like I feast off that sort of kind of environment.
And I just wanted to say that I've worked with Libby on a set before, and you are a really good director. You are quite level-headed, and you do the way you talk to your actors is so good. In comparison to how I've seen some other directors talk to actors, you just get to the point, and you do handle well under pressure, because I realise I can be a little rat of an AD sometimes. When we're running out of time, I'm listen love, you gotta get it done.
That's
and
your job though.
I know that's my job, and I do that to an alright degree, but even then I could feel myself stressing, and you were just I just need 5 more minutes, and I'd be you've said it so calmly and so nicely. I was oh damn it, Libby, you can have it.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
funny like working with your friends on student films because you never know if it's gonna go well, if you're gonna want to talk to everyone at the end of it, or if it's gonna go like
Yeah.
yeah. So it's been fun though. I mean we've got on well together. working
Yeah,
out
we work
professionally,
pretty
and
well.
Most of all my really good mates at uni who I've worked with professionally, we've like gotten really well, and I think it's
Yeah,
really
I
nice.
definitely
So
would agree with
there are
that.
some times where it doesn't go so well, and people are friends and they work together, and then it just
Then afterwards they just don't talk.
talk to each other.
Well, I think it's very rare. This is why I started writing solo theatre, because to find people that I work very well with is incredibly rare, but
Yeah.
I know how I am. I'm very, and you are starting to learn this as well, I'm very abrupt. I don't tolerate a lot of nonsense. I need things done on the time and on the date that they say it's done. And it's probably coming from a very, very strict South African mother, but if it's not done, then I need to know why, because we had an agreement. But my producer before, who's not on the team this year, Ziamara, who's spoken with a couple of podcasts, I think, for us, she is the first person that I found in 2016 that I knew I didn't want to let go of.
Yeah.
And that after 2016, I paid her out of my own pocket because I just didn't want her to leave.
She is amazing.
She is one of-
incredible.
She is incredible. She's incredibly efficient, but she sounds very similar to you. She keeps an incredibly level head. And when I need things done, I will be getting emails from her at 2:30 a.m. in the morning because she knows this needs to be completed. And it's very rare as well that I find somebody who puts up with me, because I've worked as a producer as well, who puts up with me in terms of my neuroses and the way that I produce and kind of keeps me grounded, but also like enjoys what it is. This is why we're going on tour at the end of the year, because we work incredibly well together. And I think the only time she's really lost her patience with me was when we were teching for the Vault Festival, and we had to do 8 hours of teching on our own, and then we had to literally run to the TV studio and do a London Live broadcast about the show. And we were literally running down the street trying to find the studio because we were meant to be going live in 15 minutes. But before that, we were in the theatre teching, and she was trying to figure out this lighting desk, which is exactly what, Holly, who's another producer on the team, was saying before. She knows she's a good producer because when she doesn't know something, she will find it out. And Ziamara's exactly the same. And I think I snapped at her and I was like, can we just please get this done? And she looked up from the lighting desk and she went, Robin, I'm trying. And that's the first time she snapped at me and I went, you totally are. I'm really sorry. It's like, because I know when I am out of line, and oh my God, and I absolutely take that on board. But by all means, she was right. But we work so well together. She knows when to put her foot down. I know when I'm pushing the envelope.
Yeah.
But yet we always know it's business. And it's never, ever, ever personal. It's
Yeah.
always business. And the wonderful thing about her as a producer is that the work is always the priority. And it's the same with me. The personal stuff, it comes outside of what needs to be done.
Yeah.
It is always feeding the job first. And I think that's the most important trait. I don't know about you, that if you've been
Definitely.
taught that, but we've been taught that as actors, and even working for Apple as a producer, it doesn't matter what the hell is going on, the work needs to be done. And the work and the show comes first. So I think if you find people that you work really well with, especially being in your early 20s, my God, I said to Yasmin, who's another producer on the team, just hold on to them, because it's very, very rare.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, so I think that's about everything we needed to say. Yeah.
Good chat.
Yeah, it's been a lengthy one.
Good chat.
Okay, well, Libby, thank you for coming on, and Robin, thank you for being here as always. Our links will be down below, and thank you for listening. Bye.